Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Muslim Philanthropy Podcast at American Muslim Community Foundation. My name is Muhi Khwaja. Today on the show we have Hana Khan, the Operations Manager at MUHSEN. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate being here.
Of course. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
As you mentioned, I'm the operations manager at MUHSEN. My background is about 15 years of experience in project management, operations management. A lot of that similar overlapping skill. I've worked for a lot of, corporate companies and built up a lot of experience. And I had started actually volunteering for MUHSEN about 3, 4 years ago. So the organization is about 6 years old. And I learned about it a few years in. So I helped them on the project management side of things. And so eventually I was lucky enough to be hired as their operations manager, and that's where we're at now.
Awesome. And tell us some more about, have you always been in Chicago, or, where'd you go to school and work
Yep, I
after that?
was
Yeah.
born and raised in Chicago. For what reason, I don't know. I belong in warm weather, but somehow my parents ended up here. So I have grown up here my whole life. I went to school at U of I in Urbana-Champaign. My degree was in psychology, so completely unrelated to any of my work experience. So now, yeah, I live in Chicago. I have 2 children. I do have one son on the spectrum, which is actually also another reason that led me to MUHSEN and its activities
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah. And after, some of the other project management experience that you had, what were some of the organizations that you helped out in the past?
Do you mean nonprofits or work related?
Just both, like your
Yeah,
career,
okay.
yeah.
I started off like early in my career. I worked for Sears for several years. And then I moved to like a financial company, and I worked as a project manager there for a couple years. And now actually my latest job was at Chase. JP Morgan, I was there
Hmm.
a couple years. That was like a little bit more operations related as well. Yeah, kind of like all over the place. And then, like I said, I volunteered with MUHSEN doing a lot of the same things during that time. Yeah, that's basically it.
Yeah, I think, I have totally forgotten about Sears, and it's sad to
Yeah,
say because it was like such a big company, right?
it was. And, I was there a while ago. It was like pretty early in my career, but, every day I would go in and I'm like, is this place still open? Like I myself was worried about it. So, that was kind of like at the end days that I worked there. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience. I feel like, working at corporate is like a whole different experience than working in a nonprofit. And I think everyone needs experience in both, to be honest. It really helps you grow as a person. So, yeah, you need all those
Yeah, for
different
sure.
life experiences.
I had a friend in college who did a few summers at Sears and then eventually got
Oh,
a
okay.
job. So, for me, it was like still really relevant. But like, if you
Yeah.
look at the last 5 years, it's like, wow.
Yeah. Yeah. A
Um,
lot has changed in retail in the last 5 years, that's for sure.
what would you say are some of those things that you appreciate about your corporate background that you learned and have been able to transfer over to the
Yeah, I
nonprofit world?
think I think accountability is the biggest one. I mean, and I hate to say this, like I love nonprofit, but sometimes you notice when you work with certain organizations, like the accountability is not always there the way it is in a corporate setting where you learn like you have if you say you're going to do something, you have to do it. You have to do it on time. You have to do it the right way. And there's really just no excuses around that. And I think that's just like something so important to learn. Um, and I don't think every nonprofit really takes that very seriously. And I will say, like, one thing about MUHSEN is that they do take that very seriously. And that's another reason I was like really drawn to work there is
Hmm.
because of the professionalism that you see. And that's something that, I wish more for other nonprofits is I wish they would like really take it seriously, like the way corporate world takes themselves at that seriously. I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but um there's just like a level of responsibility and responsibility to other people, respect for other people's time.
Hmm.
All of those things I think are really important.
Yeah, I think it comes down to like the management of
Hmm.
the nonprofit, right? And
Yeah,
if there's anything I know, like I've had the pleasure of meeting Juhi a few times, and
she's
you know,
wonderful.
we
Yeah.
presented at ISNA together a few
Hmm.
years ago, and just a phenomenal person, and really the
Exactly.
leadership of that she brings to MUHSEN, I think, really trickles down through the organization.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And that's what, like I said, that's what drew me so much to like work for her, you know. Those kind of people, they draw in strong candidates, you know, like you want to work for someone who's going to be a good mentor. Like I'm not going to just go work for anyone. I've been in corporate a long time. I've had great mentors. I've had terrible people that I've worked for that, you know, you learn exactly what not to do. And I feel like now, you know, I'm at that point in my career. I'm not going to go just work for anybody for any salary, for any, like, you know, I have goals and I want to work for someone who's going to make me better, who's going to help, who I know is going to help the organization grow. You know, so I take those things very seriously. And I feel like, you know, like you said, Juhi is a great example of that.
Yeah. So, you know, you shared a little bit more about your family and
Hmm.
having a child on the spectrum. Talk about like what that means to you, and to see Mohsen as an organization providing these services for families.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so lucky because, well, my son is 8. So we found out he was on the spectrum about 3 when he was 3, and that was like just the early days of MUHSEN. And so I feel like I got very lucky that when I was in this time of need that I needed these services, this organization was just starting to grow and blossom, and the services were there because, you know, if I was even like 5 years before, there would have been nothing there for me. So that timing for me worked out beautifully, and even better for, you know, people who have to go through it now later. You know, to have these services built out and ready for them when they need it is just great. And I feel like, you know, just having, for example, let me give you some examples of the things we use. There is weekend school is a good one. So for example, like, you know, when anyone has a kid, like I think most parents, the first thing they think of is like, oh, I want them to be a good Muslim. I want them to get that education. Like, I mean, people start looking for Quran teachers like when their kids are babies. You know what I mean? It's like so important, I think, in our culture that, and people place such an emphasis on it that when I had a child who was different and learning differently, like all of those things kind of had to, you know, be on the back burner for me. I can't send him to a regular school. Like, especially for Islamic school, like there's not the supports there that he would need, you know? So by the time he got to that age,
Hmm.
Mohsen already had started their weekend schools. So again, like I said, it's been perfect timing for me, so it's worked out. So I did put my son in the weekend school, and it's really great because they have special needs teachers who like basically run the classroom, and then they have like TAs that they train. So they each child has like one-to-one person working with them, and they work with them on their level, you know, what they're capable of learning, what they're capable of doing, which is, you know, they're capable of learning and doing all the things. It just has to be in an adapted way, which is not provided in a regular classroom, and especially not in Islamic classrooms, you know? So I think like having, you know, those kind of programs there for these kids is really nice. We have these actually all across the nation. We have, I think, 15 weekend schools now.
Wow.
So you know, it's really nice like for the community because like a lot of people I think like we can never do this, we can't give our kids Islamic education, or you know, they struggle to try to do it themselves at home, and then you know, it's not the same as being able to send them to a classroom where they can socialize, where there's like professionals helping them. So I think, you know, like for our experience, like that's been really great. And just having like that more like more of an awareness and in our community to be able to like talk about this subject, because I think again, like I said, like maybe even like 10 years ago, you know, if someone had a diagnosis, people were not really like comfortable talking about that. You know, sometimes even their friends or their family wouldn't know like they're going through this at home, you know, all these
Right.
struggles. So now it's like I feel a lot different. As for me, I can only speak for myself, but like for me, I know I can talk to all my friends about it, my family, like there's no shame or anything around it at all. So I think that's for a lot of people that has changed over the years, where it's become more open and accepted. So that's one of our goals, is like just to raise that awareness so people understand this is a thing in our community. We have to deal with it. It's not something to be embarrassed about or shy about or anything like that.
Of course. And in terms of MUHSEN, you mentioned the weekend schools. What are some of
Hmm.
the other programs? And I know they do a lot with certifying mosques across the
Hmm.
country to make sure
Yeah,
that, whether they're ADA compliant or just providing more programs and services like these weekend schools.
exactly. Yep.
But can you tell us a little bit more about the
Yeah,
programs
sure.
that MUHSEN has?
Yeah, so like actually that certification program that you mentioned, that was the pilot program that started MUHSEN, basically. So, like when you first start something like this, the first thing has to be awareness. Like people have to like know, what is this? What is special needs? Why do we need to help them? Why do we need to accept them? So that was basically the goal of the Masjid certification program. So like you said, part of it is the physical side, where you have to have the ADA compliance. Wheelchair has to fit here, the ramp has to be here, like those kind of things. But on the other side of that is the actual awareness piece, where we do youth training. So we train youth how to like deal with kids with special needs, and they can come be volunteers. And we do like they have to do 4 khutbas a month on disability. I'm sorry, 4 khutbas a year on disability. So, that just brings a conversation into the masjid type of thing. Like people start talking about it. There is awareness events, like you mentioned. Support groups for caregivers has been like a really good and successful one, because again, it's like it's not just about the individual with disability. There are caregivers who have, a lot of things in common that they can share with each other. So there's caregiver support groups, there's sibling support groups. Again, like siblings have their own special relationship, and special experiences that they go through that other people might not understand. So we try to bring them together. So all of that is part of awareness. So like we have like the 3 A's. So the first one is awareness, the second one is accommodation, and the third one is acceptance. So you start with awareness, right? So first people become aware that this is a thing in our community. Then we start accommodating. We start saying, okay, you can come, we'll help you, we'll support you. And then that leads to finally acceptance, which is like the end goal.
I think that's really powerful, and the just seeing the support groups, especially for like siblings and caregivers,
Hmm.
it provides a whole new lens to the common struggles that these families are facing, and making it more, like you said, accepting of others to learn about those struggles. And hopefully the mosques can play a critical role in
Hmm.
that. Obviously with COVID-19, there aren't many places that have in-person programming anymore, but what have you seen at MUHSEN kind of going through this transition of COVID-19, and how that's
Yeah,
affected
it's
the
been a
services?
it's definitely been a challenge. Yeah, like you said, a lot of our programming is masjid based, so it is tough being closed, that we can't do the same level of programming that we have done before. But whatever we've been able to move online, we have. For example, the support group meetings have all moved online to Zoom, and that's been going pretty well. And actually, it's been interesting because, like, now that the support groups are online, like, we can do national ones. So you end up meeting people like from places that you normally are not, because otherwise, like, they're local ones,
For
right? You meet
sure.
your local
Yeah.
people. So now it's kind of interesting. We get to meet like a wider group of people by being online. And then we've moved, trainings are all online, which is, again, in some ways it's easier to do stuff like that, doing an online Zoom training. Those things are all great. We do wish we could do more in person for the actual individuals with special needs, because I think they really need that in person versus virtual support. We have moved weekend school programs online too, so they're doing like all their lessons like with their Zoom teachers and things like that. But again, it is a more challenging thing to do with the individuals with special needs. Like kids have with special needs have a harder time with Zoom. That's why, like, when schools are reopening now, they're letting kids with special needs come back first, as they do that, like, phase in or whatever it is. they let the special needs individuals come first because they need that like full support at school, so it is hard to do the weekend school programs at school, but our weekend school lead has been doing a great job. She's found a lot of like nice online programs and books that she sent to the children's houses and things like that. So that way they it makes it a little bit easier for them to learn virtually. But yeah, it will just be a lot better when things are back in person. It's tough for our community for sure.
Um, in terms of what sets MUHSEN apart from other places that you've helped out, what would you say are some of those things that you've appreciated about the staff or just kind of the vision at MUHSEN?
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot I could say about that. I did mention, already about Juhi. I feel like she's a great mentor, and I feel like her leadership skills are really strong. So I really believe she can, take this organization to the next level. Other than that, I feel like, all the employees here are just like really passionate about this subject. It's not, just a job that you go to and you do. It's like these are people who like really passionately care about special needs and, each have their own expertise that they bring to the table. So like for example, like I had just mentioned about our weekend schools. So like our weekend school coordinator is a special education teacher, so it's like everyone kind of has like that, special little niche quality that they bring, which I really like that because it's like they bring all the passion to their work. It's you could see like everyone's heart in it and all these programs and everything. Like, and then one of our other really big programs that I just wanted to mention was the MUHSEN Umrah, and of
Yeah.
course, like, that's been a little bit cut off because of COVID, but that's been one of the most popular and successful programs. And um, those are like again families that never thought they could go to Umrah. Like that was just not even a thought, like, okay, no, we just can't go. And now it's something that's possible. So that's like a really huge deal for these families that they have this group that specializes in special needs taking them to Umrah. So again, we're hoping like COVID will die down and we can like bring that program back up again because that's been really popular. And I think that's like one of the reason I brought this up is because you said what is one of the unique things. So that's like something no one else does is that Umrah trip. So
Yeah, it's
um,
definitely really beautiful.
yeah, yeah,
And just seeing the videos of that program and just the
yeah,
impact that it has on the families. I'm specifically shouting out the videos as well because I know Saqib Shafi pretty well, and
yeah,
he helps
yeah. He
with the
does a
videos there.
great job,
So
right?
yeah,
Again, another like very passionate volunteer. That's like the great thing about MUHSEN is like all these, even the volunteers, whether you're volunteer or employee or someone who just helps out sometimes, people come there like with a passion to help. I don't think someone who's just kind of like middle of the road is gonna come help us. Like if you're coming to MUHSEN, it means like you have some real passion for these individuals, and like that's what makes it special, I think. Like we attract people that like really want
yeah,
to be here.
for sure.
Yeah.
In terms of like those opportunities, I'm assuming online at muhsen.org,
Yes.
MUHSEN. And you can also find them on Instagram at muhsen.org. So, what are some of those opportunities that you guys have? I'm sure you guys have things in the pipeline where you're
We
looking for
do.
people to help, and what are some of those opportunities?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up actually. So we do have a sign up link on our website where you can sign up to be a volunteer. But a couple of the different opportunities are like, for example, one, you can sign up to be a peer buddy. So right now, Peer Buddy is virtual, obviously, but it's just like 1 hour of your time, either once a week or once a month or whatever you sign up for. And then you'll be assigned a buddy and you just like, talk to them or play games virtually, read them a story, things like that. The volunteer coordinator actually has like a lot of, ideas listed that you can do as a peer buddy. So that's one thing you can sign up to do. Another thing is if you do have like some Quran or Islamic studies background, you can be a Quran tutor. And like a lot of it is like beginner level, so you don't have to feel like intimidated, like, oh, I have to be this like perfect Quran teacher. Like, if as long as you have the passion to help these people, like, you can stay on a pretty basic level and just help teach, like, learning to read Arabic, or this is how you pray, this is, how you recite, like things like that. Like it's pretty, like, just don't be intimidated is my point. And then a couple other things are respite care volunteers. So respite care is like, again, this is for in person, like when we open up again, but you go to the person's house and give the parents or the caregiver a break just for like, even if it's for like an hour or 2 hours. Sometimes like those caregivers don't even have time to like go to doctor's appointments or like, really do anything for themselves because they're so busy all the time and there's not a lot of help. So if you can even just go to their house for an hour, and there is a training for that, by the way. So like I should have backed up and said that first, that there is a training. Like if you're not someone who knows what to do or feels comfortable, like there's a really nice training that explains everything of what you can do, like, how to behave, how to take care of these individuals, and then you will feel like a lot more comfortable, and then you can go, do these respite volunteer hours. So those are just some of the things off the top of my head. I know on that form there's more options. And then if you're, somebody who just wants to like come help for special events, you can sign up for that. Like for example, for conferences, like for ISNA conference, like a lot of times people like want to drop off their child so they can go to the lecture. So we have, a whole team for that. So that way, before special needs families, it was hard for them to go to big conventions like that because there's no one to watch their child, and they can't just go to regular childcare. Those people are not experienced taking care of those kids. So now we provide that. We provide childcare as long as you register, pre-register. We have enough volunteers and everything. And by the way, I have gone to see those childcare rooms in action, and they are wonderful. I mean, they have like all these activities. They have like one-to-one, person watching each kid. They're having a great
Wow.
time. It's like,
Yeah.
those kids don't even want to leave there. So parents are very comfortable, dropping them off with the MUHSEN volunteers because they know like these people are experienced in special needs. They know what to do. They know if my kid cries, they know how to deal with it. It's not like anything to worry about. So if you want it, so like people can be volunteers for just that, or people can be weekend school TAs, and again, there's training provided for everything. So everyone can feel like we're going to help you do it, even if you don't have the experience.
Yeah, and then one of the things I've been seeing more recently as well are the ASL interpretations.
Oh, yes. I'm
Yeah.
glad you brought that up because that is a really good topic too. So yeah, we've been, and here's another thing. If you feel like you're not like a people person, I guess is the right thing, you can be a captioning volunteer. So like we have a whole captioning program where we take videos from different organizations and we provide captioning for them for people who are hard of hearing or deaf community. So if you want to just, in your free time at home, like you can just type up captioning. That's a thing that's, available as well. And then, yes, like you said, the ASL interpreters for a lot of the speakers, and especially virtually, we've been able to do that a lot more too. Add an ASL speaker while a person is presenting or speaking. That's actually blown up during COVID. Like that program has,
Great.
been really big, especially because virtually it's a lot easier to have the ASL interpreter join. And also to do like all that captioning because everyone's home now. So doing like captioning from home has grown a lot. So people have been volunteering for that as well, and that's really important, by the way. Like to get those captions on those videos, it's really good to do.
Yeah, definitely. Is there anything that we maybe missed about Mohsen that you'd like to share?
I mean, I think those are like really all the big programs that we're doing. Oh, like one of the big ones that's upcoming is an adult day program. So people have been asking for years, like we need a program for adults. So like a lot of people may not know, but once, a child reaches the age of 21, they're out of the school system. So like they're in school until 18, then there's a 3-year transition program that's provided by the state usually. And then after that, they're on their own. So that's been a really, really big gap because, once a child turns 21, it's like you have to basically go put them in a day program. And a lot of day programs are not that great. hate to say it, but that's the truth. Like, if there's a good one, it's rare. Most of the day programs are pretty, like, they leave a lot to be desired. So, especially with our community, we need safety, we need people we trust. We need people who we know will take good care of these individuals. So I think that's our big goal, is to open the day center. So we are starting a pilot program, inshallah, this summer. It was supposed to be last year. Again, COVID hit right then as we were, about to open that up. So we are going to try to slowly open this summer. So we'll start with like a few programs, and, inshallah, pray for us that we turn into a full functioning, full day program for these adults, so they can have like a
I
nice,
mean,
safe place to come.
definitely. Um, you know, Obviously, I can hear the passion in your
Hmm.
voice about MUHSEN, and it's great to see that there's an organization serving the needs of the community, and providing all of these things, from education to support groups to travel. And you know, I always like asking everybody who's on the show, like, what are some other organizations that you're passionate about? Obviously, to me, it sounds like MUHSEN is number one. But if there were one or two other organizations that you and your family give your zakat and sadaqah to, which ones would you like to share?
I would say like Islamic Relief is a good one. They do, a lot of good relief programs. Another one I really like is Heroic Hearts. They do, a lot of like building wells, and like in Syria, Yemen, like those areas, they provide lot of relief there. So those are a couple of my top two. And then the other thing I would say is like to always try to give locally to your local mosque, your local community. That's just also really important that you're supporting, your friends and neighbors. So,
Great.
mhm.
Well, it's been a real delight to hear from you and learn
Same.
more about MUHSEN. I'm really excited for our listeners to visit muhsen.org, learn more about the organization, how they can get involved, and really looking forward to just watching all of the great things that MUHSEN will do.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Take care.
Thanks, you too.